The first project and infrastructure finance conference, organized by FBN Capital, a subsidiary of FBN Holdings, created the platform for public and private sector players to discuss and explore the role of project and credit risk assessment in unlocking Nigeria's growth potential.
The whole idea of project finance is to be able to apportion risk. You need to identify who is the best position to take the risk and handle offload the risk to them. So what the FIs are able to do, we're able to lend long term. We can, at the ISO, we can do as much as 30-year tenor. And we've done it before for Panama Canal with the 30-year money.
The event had various panel sessions and presentations covering project finance, due diligence and lessons learned, viability, funding, sources and liquidity, and security arrangements and contractual structures.
Niger was one of the richest companies in Nigeria, and it was liquidated. Nigerian Airways was the only airline in the country, and it got liquidated. And we know that when the federal government set up a body, not embedded, but in the electricity industry, to help to shape the industry, the first thing officers did was to spend 832 million naira in buying cars, furniture, and renting an office. So if the future will be like the past, there is reason to make sure that we look at the possibility of the risk that we should all work on finding security to deal with.
Things are changing in Nigeria. I recognize as an investor in Discourse, and in terms of capital structure, in terms of seeing that we're using kind of a mix between DFIs and commercial lenders. And I must say that we look at commercial lenders offering 10 years up to 12 years, and actually rates quite sensible as well. Of course, it's true because there is a PHG cover or an ECA cover, otherwise offshore lenders, commercial lenders will come in the country anyway. But things are moving, and it seems like they're going towards the right direction.
Despite various levels of funding and financing of infrastructural projects in Nigeria, there's still a gap in West Africa's leading economies' infrastructure base.
In Turkey, Brazil, Libya, local banks always take the lead. And the good thing is Nigeria is not any different. I think the local bank should be commended for rising up to the challenge of taking risks and setting the path for international investors to come.
It was an avenue for players in the industry to offer fresh perspectives and insight into closing the infrastructural deficit in areas like power and transportation through project finance and alternative sources of funding.
So what we do is we actually look within our institutions because we're trying to get better customer delivery and say how much power is really needed, not how much is installed, but what is actually required. Where are we going to place this power plant to make sure the private sector is comfortable with the amount of space that is required? And then we go into the gas and gas supply.
Developing this finance proposition through anchor customers. And this slide is intended just to show that we've got Calabar, NIPP Calabar and Ebron Power, which are the two anchor customers to underpin the project finance initiative, and also, of course, to justify the significant capital investment. And I'll touch on that in a second, but it's obviously hugely relevant, the capital intensity of the business we're in.
Experts spoke further on effective power privatization, alternative source of funding, and the essence of creating the platform for strategic public-private sector partnership.
So there are a number of various alternative sources of funding. Maybe the first one would be private equity for like private investors, either from Nigeria or outside Nigeria, to invest in directly in this sector, infrastructure. So private equity funds, for example, there are already a few funds who are actually very active in Africa.
The bulk trader is already in place. They're able to sign power purchase agreement with anyone who wants to produce electricity in Nigeria to them.
Or the PPA?
Yes, the PPA. The regulator is already in place. They are licensing people who want to take part in the sector. And there's already plans in place to provide the necessary funding for the transmission company of Nigeria to improve the transmission grid. So all these pieces are coming together, which is what gives us confidence that the right ingredients is coming together to make the power sector sustainable for the long run.
And all credit to the private sector for being willing to take a risk. All credit to the local banks in particular, who have funded a lot of the transactions that have taken place so far. I think as time goes on, other institutions become comfortable, both local and international, so there will hopefully be more money and more deals to be done.